Over the course of our month-long coverage of Lords of the Fallen, we've dived deep into the Umbral Axiom dual realm mechanic, went over some vital combat tips, and talked about the ways in which the developers at Hexworks are aiming to innovate upon the standard Souls-like formula. But one important element that we've only briefly touched upon has been the magic system of the game.
True.
So let's correct that oversight and break down how magic works in Lords of the Fallen.
Oh, that looks sick.
In this new Lords of the Fallen, there are 3 schools of magic, each tied to one of the 3 warring gods at the heart of the story. There's Rogar, which is the magic of the god of chaos, Adyr, Radiant, the holy magic of the god Aureus, and Umbral, the magic of the goddess that rules the Umbral realm. Each school of magic has their own unique type of catalyst that you'll need to equip in order to wield it, but you're free to specialize in whichever you want.
Okay.
Of course, that choice will largely come down to your own stats and what kind of build you're aiming for.
Right.
There are 2 core magic stats when it comes to magic scaling. Infernal is what players will want to sink points into if they want to specialize in Rogar Pyromancy, and Radiance is the stat for Radiant magic. Interestingly, Umbral magic actually scales with both of them, so you'll have to make that choice of whether you want to go full Pyromancy, full Radiance, or double dip into both so that you can go big on Umbral magic. As for the spells themselves, as you might imagine, Rogar spells focus on big explosive damage, with basic fireballs that deal big AoE damage, damage over time flamethrowers, a hail of meteors.
Ooh, look at that,
and
that's
a summon
crazy.
that causes fire dogs to fight for you.
Wait, there's dogs? Yeah, let's
Radiant
go.
spells are focused more on buffs and heals for the most part.
Wait, we gotta stop there real quick. First of all, you can have fire-breathing dogs as a skill? That is crazy. I'm really looking forward to that. And hi, Lucia! Let's go! Nom nom. Thanks for tuning in and for your first time chatting, as always. I appreciate it. But we're gonna be reacting here, and so first of all, what I wanted to talk about is that they're mentioning essentially that there are 3 categories of magic, obviously, you know, based on the title, but they're all representing like a power from a god. So clearly, you know, you're gonna have three different you know, gods with different kind of powers, and from that on point, obviously, you can, you know, dictate where your different skill points is gonna end up. You know, which category essentially you want to get up into. And obviously, you know, one is kind of like, you know, the fire magic, you know, breaking it down a bit simple. Then you have obviously the holy magic, which is another category, and then you have the umbral, which is a mix of both. So I think, you know, it looks pretty cool in terms of that. I mean, like, personally, I'm probably gonna, you know, specialize that build, you know, right away. Personally, I'm probably gonna go like a little bit on the fire side, but it's pretty cool that you have, like, you know, 3 options if you want to kind of, you know, test a little bit both the waters. You know, you can have like the umbral side of things, so it doesn't make it too confusing. And yeah, let's take a little bit at the look on the skills that they have. But the fire skill, unlike the fire meteor shower, that looks great, and I'm definitely looking forward to having some fire breathing dogs, because why not?
But they do still have plenty of ways to deal damage as well. You've got a lightning bolt projectile, a short-lived lightning lance laser beam style spell,
laser beam,
and a lightning orb spell, among others. And finally, umbral spells seem to be far slower moving, but still pack quite a punch once they find their way to a target. We've seen an ability that coats your weapon with umbral power, a spell that calls up a series of bombs that explode a short distance away from the caster, and a time bomb that moves a short distance and then explodes for massive damage. This is just a small handful of the spells that players can expect to wield in Lords of the Fallen. The developers assured me that the list of spells is extensive, and in fact, every spell you see an enemy use against you, you can learn a variation for yourself, and we'll come back around to that shortly.
Right, so this is one of the coolest aspects of this game when it comes to magic, in my opinion, and that's the fact that you can utilize, you know, the magic, you can learn the magic that you see in the game. So if you come across a boss that has like this crazy magic spell and you're like, I want to learn that, you actually can, or at least, as they said, a variation of that. And this was something I know a lot of people were talking about in Elden Ring, particularly, where they're like, oh, I want to do that spell. And it's like, no chance, right? Or if it's like a weak, I mean, like, you could do some of them, of course, but it's like some spells you were like, it would be so cool if you could do like the Crucible Knight, you know, the kind of like the flying part of it or something like that. Of course, you know, it's a bit maybe complicated to implement these kind of things, but I really like the idea that, you know, the spell that you see, you know, it's something that you can utilize. That's huge. So this is a big plus that I'm really looking forward. So right now, the way I've been seeing as well the other videos from Lords of the Fallen is that they've been showing a lot of holy skills and they look so good, and I'm like, I want to try that too. But at the same time, you know, I think based on the character video I made, like the fire angle is gonna be my play. So, you know, but let's see, you know, maybe this video is gonna convince me, who knows, to something else.
One of the challenges of implementing magic systems in a Soulslike is that it's hard to find that sweet spot of making magic feel strong and satisfying without making it feel overpowered. If you make it too weak, on the other hand, then you run into the opposite problem of making it hard to justify the sacrifices that a player must make with their stat allocation in order to properly utilize magic. To that end, the developers at Hexworks have balanced magic to be strong, but also have enemies that have natural resistances to the elements. At the beginning of the game, for instance, you'll run into a bunch of enemies that are resistant to Rogar spells, making it a tough early going for anyone that tries to go heavy on pyromancy, but once you're able to get through that section, you'll have a much smoother time until you start running into those fire-resistant enemies again. On the flip side of that, there are also areas where radiant magic will be strong and weak. Essentially, there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to magic, and there are occasions where you may find yourself having to change up your strategy
that is
to deal
sick.
with certain enemies in various regions of Lords of the Fallen's world. Beyond those three main schools of magic, there are also secondary types of magic, such as frost, poison, and so on, which you'll...
Alright, so there's also secondary magic, such as frost and poison, and a few others, as they were mentioning. But I think also, as they were saying, is that in the first area of the game, you would kind of like meet people that are strong towards like the fire magic, so, you know, it won't be as strong early on. But in theory, though, the game should kind of be easiest in the beginning, and that's why also I think it's a play kind of starting that way. Because, you know, yes, it might be a challenge, but, you know, the beginning is kind of like, it's supposed to kind of like ease you in a bit. So I think it won't be as difficult as maybe they kind of highlight, or maybe it is. But I think that's the play, so that's why also I think it's a good idea.
You'll generally be able to utilize by finding specific items that can be thrown or applied to your weapon. And each of those will also be strong or weak against specific types of enemies as well.
Right,
so there's a
sense.
lot of room for experimentation when it comes to finding the right type of magic to deal with enemies within a region. With so many spells to learn, it begs the question, how do you obtain them?
Right.
Of course, there's the tried and true method of simply finding them by exploring the world, opening chests, and finding shinies out in the wild. But what was interesting to me was that there's also a Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow-like system as well. Killing certain enemies also gives a % chance that you'll be able to loot their particular spell. Because, as I said before, every spell you see is a spell you can learn.
Right.
In addition to that, bosses will have remnants to discover after you've defeated them, and if you soulflay that, you'll be able to take that to an NPC back in your hub, who will be able to transform it into some sort of reward. Sometimes that's a unique weapon, and sometimes it will be a powerful spell that the boss uses.
Alright, so I mean, like, that's pretty, you know, a common strategy in terms of how you can obtain them. So one, you can obviously find them randomly from like chests or shiny objects as they see in the world. You can also, you know, randomly get them from the enemies that are, you know, utilizing them, which means also that's pretty cool. Which is like, if it's like a standard, you know, enemy, not like a boss or anything like that, you can actually, you know, oh, that's a cool spell, I want to have that. And then if you farm that enemy enough times, you know, you're gonna actually be able to get that. And that's pretty cool. And then obviously you have like, you know, the boss element of it, where you're gonna, you know, obtain this remnant after you beat the boss, which you can then utilize to either, you know, probably select either their weapon or, you know, one of their magic spells, which was also very similar to how, you know, Elden Ring did in terms of the runes, right? You go back to your hub, you utilize the rune, and then you kind of choose, okay, do you want the weapon, do you want, like, you know, one of the abilities, and so forth. So not too unfamiliar, you know, they're not reinventing the wheel, but makes things very clear.
And that's currently everything there is to know about magic
Look at
in
that.
Lords of the Fallen. Everything else you're going to have to learn for yourself when Lords of the Fallen releases on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on October 13th, 2023. Thanks for watching, and for more Lords of the Fallen, keep it here on IGN.
All right. Well, I mean, like, in terms of, you know, first of all, what kind of spell or category would you like to choose? You know, personally, I would still go with the fire one. I think it's, you know, a good starting point. It fits one of the strong characters that you can play early on. You can watch my character video for that, you know, for some tips and insights. But I think at the end of the day, if you're gonna make a choice, you know, just based on the video, based on the insights that are here, then I would just say, you know, choose whatever you think looks, you know, the coolest. Like the spells that you see is like, oh, that looks sick, I want to try this like right away. Then choose that category, and then, like, you know, on your second or third run, you know, try something else. But I would just, you know, at the end of the day, you know, have fun, choose whatever you think looks the coolest, you think is going to be the most, you know, coolest thing to try, you know, and gain from the bosses and so forth, and just have fun. So that's what I would recommend. Like I said, I think for me personally, I will go the fire way, and you know, how like a tornado of fireballs eliminating enemies, you know, through that. And definitely the dogs, I hope I can obtain the fire dogs early, because, you know, just just imagine, you know, you're killing these enemies with like these fire dogs. That's gonna be pretty